My grandmother's voice was the river of my childhood, a current that did not merely carry me forward, but carved me into the shape of who I would become. Her words were not hurried. They arrived slow, like leaves drifting downstream, each one bearing a secret older than memory. When she spoke, the room seemed smaller, as though the walls leaned in to listen. The fire beside her crackled, shadows dancing on the mud brick walls like restless witnesses to her tales. Her eyes, heavy with secrets, glittered as if they reflected stars unseen by ordinary skies. She told me stories that were not meant for children, stories heavy as stones yet polished smooth by love. She told me of a people the world had forgotten. Not myth, not rumor, not dream, but truth wrapped in silence. The blue people, she called them. A people not born of paint, not carved by poets, but touched by the heavens themselves. Their glow was not decoration, but destiny. Their existence was not legend, but legacy. As she spoke, her words pressed into me, planting seeds that would grow into visions I could not escape. The river of her voice was endless, and I was helpless, but to follow its current. I felt carried toward a place my feet had never walked, toward a people my eyes had never seen. And yet, in the quiet chambers of my heart, I felt I had always known them. She said they were hidden, waiting in silence, buried in stone and memory, and that perhaps, one day, they would rise again. Her words did not end. They lingered, living in me long after she had fallen silent. They were not painted, she whispered, her lips brushing the edge of the night. Her tone was a secret, soft enough that even the wind dared not interrupt. They were not myths written by the hands of dreamers. They were flesh, they were light, they were sorrow made human. Their skin shimmered, not like pigment, not like dye, but like night itself had wrapped around their bodies. The deep indigo of midnight, alive and breathing. When they moved, it was as though galaxies moved with them. Their eyes, oh, their eyes were constellations. Not reflections, not illusions, but burning truths. When they looked at you, the walls you had built inside yourself dissolved. Every lie you told yourself fell away. Every hidden grief rose like smoke, unveiled without cruelty, exposed without shame. They saw into you, not with judgment, not with scorn, but with knowing. And in that knowing, you felt whole. You felt remembered. For the blue people did not merely live beside others, they carried others within them. They were keepers of truth, guardians of memory. Not gods, not monsters, but bridges between silence and song. My grandmother said, once you were seen by them, you were never truly lost again. The elders remembered the first. When the world was still fragile, still trembling with youth, still uncertain of its shape, men raised their hands not in prayer, but in violence. And the heavens, unable to bear it, wept. From the endless sky fell a single tear, infinite and pure. It fell for ages, through cloud and shadow, until it touched the brow of a newborn child. Where it landed, the skin shimmered blue, not as paint does, but as light itself. That child was more than flesh. In its veins coursed the rhythm of the cosmos. The pulse of stars beat in its heart. The breath of oceans stirred in its lungs. The weight of mountains echoed in its bones. The fire of creation lit its eyes. From that child came a people, the blue people, not bound by borders, not shaped by soil, but born of the eternal sorrow of heaven. They carried grief, but also hope. They carried silence, but also song. They were the children of the tear, and through them, the world itself remembered how to weep and how to heal. Their glow was gift enough, but my grandmother said their truest power lay in their voices. They did not speak as we do, stumbling on syllables, losing meaning in broken words. They spoke in harmonies, as if language itself had been born of song. Every word was rhythm, every phrase a melody. One note could still the fury of a storm. One chant could mend torn flesh, closing wounds as gently as a mother's hand closes a child's fist around safety. One melody could soothe the sorrow of a broken spirit. When they sang together, their voices rose like rivers overflowing their banks. The land listened. The rivers swelled in answer. The winds shifted course. Even the restless heart of the earth quieted to hear them. Their voices were not mere sound, they were creation remembering itself. They sang the song that shaped the stars. They carried the rhythm that bound sky to stone, water to flame, spirit to flesh. And through their voices, the world itself was healed. To speak with them was to sing with them. To sing with them was to remember what it meant to be whole. That was their true gift, harmony, woven into the marrow of existence. They carved their homes deep within the living rock. Not caves of darkness, but sanctuaries of light. Their walls glowed with spirals, with circles, with lines alive with fire. Every glyph was not mere art, but memory. A spiral for beginnings. A circle for endings that were not endings. A line for journeys walked and yet to walk. When the moon rose, the carvings shimmered, pulsing like lungs in quiet slumber. The walls seemed to breathe, alive with ancestral fire. The blue people gathered in silence. They pressed palms to stone, listening. And the stone answered. Through the glowing marks, voices of the ancestors whispered. Not in words, but in memory. Not in sound, but in knowing. They did not read history in books that crumbled into dust. They touched history with their hands, and history touched them back. Their past was alive, glowing, breathing, eternal. Their stories did not vanish, they shimmered, waiting in stone, waiting in song. And through this, the blue people never forgot. My grandmother told me their hands held a power deeper than even their voices. With a touch, they could close wounds that no blade or fire could undo. They did not heal like healers with herbs or smoke. They healed like rivers, heal stones slow, inevitable, eternal. Their hands glowed faintly when they touched the broken, and in that glow, flesh remembered how to knit itself. Bones remembered how to bind together. Even hearts, fractured by grief, remembered how to beat without trembling. She said their hands did not force healing, they reminded the body of its own forgotten strength. Every wound, every scar, every sorrow was carried into their palms. And with tenderness, they gave it back transformed. No wonder people whispered of miracles when the blue people walked. Yet they claimed no miracles. They said they only listened to the silent music inside the broken, and returned it to wholeness. Their touch was the bridge between despair and hope, between endings and beginnings, between silence and song. To be touched by them was to feel, for a moment, what it meant to be eternal. And though their gift seemed simple, it was greater than any sword. But their touch was not their only bond. She said the blue people dreamed together. When one of them closed their eyes at night, their spirit could slip across mountains, across oceans, across the very veil of sleep. They could find another, waiting in silence, and join them. They shared visions, memories, whispers of the future, and echoes of the past. Dreams became threads. Threads became tapestries. And each blue person was a thread woven into the greater whole. They did not dream alone. No child cried in darkness without another arriving in their sleep to comfort them. No elder faded without their final dream being shared. In this way, they were never apart. Their hearts beat as one, even when their bodies stood oceans away. When they woke, they carried pieces of each other. Smiles borrowed. Sorrows shared. Visions carried like gifts between kindred souls. This was how they remembered they were not merely individuals, but a people. This was how they remained one heart, one song, one voice. And so long as they dreamed together, they could never be truly lost. But above all, she said, their greatest gift was listening. Not with ears, not with eyes, not with words. They listened with their spirit. They heard the whisper of leaves as though it were speech. They felt the sigh of the earth as though it were language. The pulse of rivers carried truths to them. The heartbeat of stones told them of ancient griefs. The breath of trees carried secrets older than men, and they did not dismiss these whispers as nonsense. They answered. When the wind carried sorrow, they sang to soothe it. When the earth trembled with fear, they pressed their palms to the ground until it was calm. When rivers roared with fury, they walked into the water, and their songs stilled the waves. They listened to silence itself, and even silence spoke. For silence is not empty. Silence is full, brimming with the voices of all that cannot yet be spoken. The blue people heard it, and through them, the world was not lonely. Sometimes, when the night was still and the world outside my grandmother's hut lay hushed, I thought I heard them too, in the rustle of leaves that seemed more like whispers than mere wind, in the cry of an owl that seemed like a question waiting for an answer, in the stillness that pressed against the roof until silence itself rang like a bell. There were moments when I felt their presence, not in sight, not in sound, but in a knowing that settled in my bones. It was as if their voices lived beneath the surface of the world, as if the earth itself had swallowed them, only to echo them in fragments. I listened, though I did not know how. I strained my heart, though I was only a child. And in those moments, I thought I heard their songs. Faint, distant, like embers buried beneath ash, glowing faintly, waiting for a breath to flare into flame, I wondered if my grandmother's tales held truth. The blue people, she said, had not vanished as the world believed. Perhaps they had only retreated, sinking deeper into the earth's memory, waiting for a time when we were ready to hear them again. As a child, I carried her words like fragile treasures, unsure if they were myth or something more, something alive, pulsing beneath the surface of the world. Then came the dream, a singular vision that carved itself into my soul. It came only once, but its weight was eternal. I saw them figures woven of light, moving through a darkness so vast it seemed to cradle the stars. Their skin shimmered like embers glowing in the ashes of the universe, each pulse a heartbeat of forgotten time. They did not speak, yet their voices wove through me, soft as lullabies sung to cradle infants, vast as horizons stretching beyond sight. Their silence was a language fuller than any I had known, carrying stories of centuries in its quiet depths. Their eyes met mine, and in that gaze, I was unraveled. All my secrets, my hidden sorrows, my unspoken fears rose like birds startled into flight, yet there was no shame, no judgment, only the calm of being seen, truly seen, and held in gentle light. When I woke, my face was wet with tears, though I felt no sadness. I was only a child, but I knew the dream was not mine alone. It was a memory the earth itself carried, a gift shared with me for reasons I could not yet grasp. When I told my grandmother of the dream, her eyes grew heavy with secrets, as if the weight of ages rested behind them. She did not ask what I saw, as though she already knew the shapes of their light, the rhythm of their silence. Instead, she smiled, slow and weary, the way one smiles at a truth too vast to hold. "You hear them," she whispered, her voice softer than the wind at dawn, yet steady as the earth beneath. "They are not gone." Her hands, trembling with age, clasped mine, their warmth a tether to something greater, something ancient. In her touch, I felt a thread connecting her to the blue people, to the stories she carried like a sacred burden. "Their story is not lost," she said. "It waits in the breath of the wind, in the quiet pulse beneath your feet, in the songs rivers hum to their stones." One day, when the world grows weary enough to listen, she leaned close, her lips brushing my ear, her breath warm and deliberate. "The blue people will rise again." Her words were not prophecy, nor warning, but memory, a memory heavy with centuries, a torch carried through endless darkness, waiting for hands strong enough to lift it once more. She spoke then of their first songs, sung when the world was young and trembling. These were not songs of joy or sorrow, but of balance, woven to steady the earth's restless heart. When the blue people gathered, their voices rose as one, a harmony that reached beyond themselves. Mountains steadied their roots, rivers recalled their ancient paths, and the sky, heavy with storms, cleared to reveal stars. The earth, still finding its rhythm, found calm in their song. They were not masters of the world but caretakers, their voices an invitation to join in the pulse of existence. When the world grew restless, they soothed it with melody. When it grew weary, they lifted it with rhythm. When it broke, they bound its wounds with song. Their music was not performance, but prayer, not to gods above, but to the earth itself, a covenant sealed in melody, kept in every note they sang. Their homes, my grandmother said, were carved into living rock, not as conquerors claiming dominion, but as children seeking a mother's embrace. The walls glowed with spirals and circles, etched not with tools, but with light. Each curve, a story, a life, a birth, a death, a song. These glyphs were memory itself, a living record of their people. At night, the carvings pulsed, shimmering like stars woven into stone, breathing with the rhythm of the earth. When the moon rose, the blue people gathered, pressing their palms to the glowing walls. In the silence, they heard ancestors' voices echo through the light, not gone, not forgotten, but alive in the stone's embrace. The rock was their library, the light, their voice, carrying the past forward in a dance of dust and glow. They knew the world better than it knew itself. They walked barefoot, feeling the earth's heartbeat with each step, tasting the air to sense coming storms, pressing ears to the ground to hear the stirring of roots. The land trusted them, for they did not take without giving. They sang to felled trees, left gifts for rivers, whispered apologies to hunted prey. They were not rulers but kin, belonging to the world as deeply as roots to soil. Storms bent around their homes, winds softened in their presence, and even fire hesitated, flickering harmlessly near their dwellings. The earth sheltered them, for they lived as though every breath was borrowed, every step a gift to be returned. But not all who saw them understood. My grandmother's voice grew heavy as she spoke of others, men consumed by hunger, driven by fear. They saw the blue people's glow not as blessing but as threat, their songs not as harmony but as danger. For men who craved power feared what they could not possess. The blue people's songs could not be chained, their touch could not be bought, their dreams could not be stolen. Whispers of envy grew into fear, fear sharpened into hatred, and hatred, as it always does, demanded blood. Yet the blue people did not fight. They sang, their voices rising even as shadows gathered, not to conquer or curse but to remind the world that harmony was still possible, even in the face of violence. The first attack was not with weapons but with silence. Men stopped listening, turning away from the songs that once drew them in awe. The harmony frayed, drowned by suspicion's clamor. Rivers no longer swelled to greet the voices, winds grew restless, and the earth shifted uneasily beneath. Denied its song, the world remembered its grief. Storms raged, lands cracked, skies burned. Still, the blue people sang, not to be heard but to remind the earth of its own heart. Trees swayed, stones hummed, mountains held their breath, waiting, knowing the gift they carried and fearing its loss. Silence alone could not quiet the song, for as long as one voice remained, harmony lived. But men's hunger demanded more. They came with fire, its flames licking the edges of carved homes, light clashing with light, one born to heal, the other to devour. The spirals and circles faded beneath smoke, yet the walls resisted, glowing faintly as if ancestors fought to remain. The blue people gathered, singing through the fire's crackle, and for a moment the flames faltered. Smoke thinned, the earth trembled, as if choosing to save them. But men fed the blaze faster than song could calm it. One by one, glyphs dimmed. One by one, voices fell silent, not from death, but from grief too heavy to bear. The land cried out, rivers breaking banks, winds tearing through villages, the balance fracturing. The blue people did not vanish like smoke, but like stars, fading from sight, yet lingering in existence. Their glow withdrew into stone, rivers, ere their voices slipping into earth's cracks, their dreams hiding in ancient roots. To men, it seemed defeat. They celebrated, building over ruins, carving harsh names into stone. But the earth knew better. Rivers whispered their names, mountains guarded their secrets, winds carried song fragments. At night, walls breathed faint light, unseen by closed eyes. The memory lived, patient as silence before song. The world grew restless, wilder storms, splitting lands, skies burning with man's fire. Yet the memory endured, waiting. My grandmother's voice broke as she spoke of hearing them herself, long ago, as a child chasing fireflies in a silent forest. A hum led her to an ancient oak, where three glowed like moonlit water, eyes shimmering like constellations. They sang, trees swaying without wind, earth sighing. They healed a wounded bird, its wing mending in their glow. When they saw her, their wordless voice said, "Remember us." The song lingered in her heart, a secret flame she carried despite laughter, knowing the stories were truth hidden in plain sight. She said, "I carried that flame too, chosen to remember." I laughed, a child too small for the universe's care, but she smiled. Even the smallest stone changes the river's path. Her words sank deep, and I began to hear voices in wind, rain, night stillness, shadows of light at dream's edge, asking only remembrance. I swore to never forget, unaware of the vow's weight. Their story, she warned, was also future. When earth tires of silence, they'll rise voices as storms, rivers swelling, winds weaving, stones pulsing. Humanity must choose, open hearts or closed fists. The blue people are mirrors, reflecting our souls. Violence trembles the world, harmony makes it sing. Their return will reveal our choice. I carry her words, each a polished stone, heavy yet shining, belonging to earth, wind, memory. The world hums louder, rivers pause, stars lean. In still nights, I hear their vast song, glowing blue in sky's memory, eyes holding constellations. They wait, patient as stone, not gone. The blue people live. One day, the world will hear them again. Feel their light, hear their call, keep their memory alive. Like to join the harmony, share to spread their story.